Hey guys, Joeteck here, kind of in the background here. We're going to build a computer, and it's going to be really cool. Now, what I have here, this is a custom benching station. And what this is, it allows me to mount motherboards on here and allow me to pretty much test the equipment out before I actually put it inside of a case. Now this is a custom device that I had made probably around 15 years ago when I used to do some serious major overclocking. This is all handmade stuff. So I've made some modifications to it. I'm going to spin around. I have a power supply on here. Let me pick it up so you can kind of see. Power supply is right here. I have room for two of them. This is a gantry, so if I wanted to do some like overclocking and stuff like that, I just need a heat sink. I can move this gantry down and put pressure on the heat sink only, and pushes it down onto the CPU, so I don't have to worry about actually physically mounting it to the board. Very helpful. I have it on here still because you never know when I may need it. So I did have it removed at one point, so I'm just going to lift it up a little higher. So what's really nice about this thing, here, I'll just tilt it over here, is that it has mounting for any size motherboard. ITX, ATX, micro ATX, pretty much any board you could possibly think of. I do have spots for hard drives on the I have a DVD-ROM drive and two removable hard drive bays. So it makes it easier for installing hard drives and stuff like that to do some testing. So today we're actually going to build a computer. I have a client of mine that needs some stuff done, but I'm missing the cases. So we're just going to mount it on here, do the installation of the hardware on here, just to install the operating system and whatnot, and get it all done. So then I just have to simply move the hardware into the case. Not a big deal. So I have all the necessary power here. I have the ATX power, SATA cable, CPU power right here. Makes it much easier. So what we're going to try to do is try to make this a little bit more, visible or viable for you guys to actually see. This is like the coolest thing ever. I mean, come on, it's even got where you can put video cards in or other expansion cards, and you have the screw mounts for this. It's very, this is actually very, very old. But it works out really well. So what we're going to be doing today, we have 250 gig Samsung Evo 850. We have two of them because it's two computers. So I have two of them. Now these machines are for office machines, so they really don't need to have all that high power. We do have DDR4 memory. This happens to be 2400. Timings are 16, 16, 16, 39. This is 8 gig kit. I have two of them, two 8 gig kits. And the CPU is a LGA 1151 G4400. And there's two of these. And maybe we might do some overclocking today, who knows. But these are dual core, nothing fancy. And they both have Intel graphics built on, obviously, on the GPU. And the motherboard we are using is a Gigabyte B150M-D3H-GSM. And this motherboard is perfect for this task. It's a micro ATX board and has the necessary features and functions that I need for my client. I'll show you in a moment. I'm going to rip this board out for you so you can see. Okay, so it has USB 3.0, obviously HDMI, DVI, DB15. Still has the PS2 and 2 USB connections here for mouse and keyboard, but you still have the PS2. I'm still like a big fan of that. So you have USB 3.0 and still 2.0 audio, and 2 PCI Express slots and 2 PCI slots. So if you ever needed to do some upgrades. This also supports the M.2 drive. So if you ever wanted to put M.2 hard drive on here, which will supersede that Samsung Evo 850 by a mile. And it's got 6 SATA ports on it, a SATA Express port on it. It's just, and it's got USB 3.0 support as well. So this is a really feature-packed motherboard for the size. But it's really for office use, so it really doesn't really matter. But I always buy good quality components for my clients. So let's just show you how this works. We'll mount this board on here. So I have thumb screws on here, which is helpful. So let's unscrew all these screws, these thumb screws, and see how this board gets mounted. So we take this and pop it right on. Perfect. I could move. There are 2 spots where I actually can move for some added support. So if I wanted to say, let's move this one. I'm telling, the guy who made this was a genius. And I used to do some serious overclocking in my day. And this was used heavily in my overclocking days. You'll see in a moment how useful this chassis is. So now that I have the board mounting, there we go. So now the board's mounted. Now this is just like as if it was in a chassis or in a case. Put the thumb screws down. Just makes it a little easier when you're trying to diagnose something or try to build something or whatever you're trying to do. It just makes it easier to see if anything's wrong. This is a temporary solution. We're not going to leave it in here like this. This setup is specifically for like overclocking and stuff. And if you're familiar with overclocking, this is what you use. So because you're not going to stick it in a case or nothing like this. Is all temporary, just to see. All right, so now we have the motherboard mounted. As you can clearly see, I'll tilt it over. Motherboard's mounted on my benched testing bed. And now we could install the CPU. Now, I want you guys to see this installation of the CPU. Okay, so now this is a 1151. Okay, so now we're going to open up the CPU. And it's important take that out of the case. You gotta be very careful because it's important. Let's take out this plastic protecting part for the socket. You gotta be real careful about the pins here. Now there is a notch that you have to look for and make sure it lines up. So it looks like there's one here and there's one on this side here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to grab the CPU. And the notch is there. And you pop it right in just like so. And then you simply drop this down first. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see where this is going. This has to be fully extended because this has to slide underneath this screw. So I'll show that again. So now that the CPU is mounted in the socket, and there are pins here, so you gotta be really careful about the pins. So you drop this down, let it fall underneath this, and push it down like so. And the pressure forces the CPU into the socket. And that's pretty much it. Now the CPU is installed. Now we want to do the heatsink. Intel likes to wrap the wire around the heatsink and fan. So what we want to do is we look for the actual CPU header, which is right there. So we want to face the wire in that particular direction when we mount the heatsink and fan on the chassis, on the motherboard rather. So we go like this. We line up the, let me zoom out a little bit here so you can see what I just did there. I'll pull it out again. I didn't push the pins in, so I'm simply just putting the heatsink and fan right in the holes. Put it on the header for the fan, which is right there. And I like to do it on a crisscross. Like I push one here, put a little pressure here so this doesn't move. Push it down until you hear a click. Then I go across the way on this angle and push this one in here until you hear a click. Then I go to the next one here, push it in until I hear a click, and go to the next one, push there until I hear a click. So now the CPU is secure on the motherboard. It's so simple, isn't it, guys? It makes it easy when you have this chassis as well. I mean, granted, everything is open. I don't have to worry about anything in terms of you know, anything being in the way and whatnot. So now we'll install the memory, and this one has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so the colored RAM sockets, you have 2 grays and 2 blacks, and these are it's dual channel. So these 2 RAM sticks are 1 channel, and these are the other 2 channels. But this is 1, 3, 2, 4. So we're going to put it in 1 and 2 slot, the memory. And memory is the only thing that you actually can destroy by static electricity. So we're going to be very, very careful with this. And what we want to do is pop the plastic off a little bit and hold on to the heatsink only. And make sure you line up the slots properly, because you don't want to mess up and put the RAM in the wrong way and mangle up the pins. And you hear a click, and that's how you know you got it in properly. Alright, so now we got the memory in. So essentially this machine is almost done. So we're just going to mount the power, ATX power here. And let's see. I'm going to SATA cable. Most likely we're going to go to SATA 0, because that's the most. And in theory we can actually, let's see. CPU power, can't forget that. Move that over here. So that's in. So now we have pretty much all the necessary connections. CPU power, CPU fan, memory, ATX power. Now we need to actually install the header panel, you know, the panel. So we actually turn it on. If you look carefully, which one's what? So power LED, power switch, reset, speaker, all those are right there. So let's add those in. So this is really cool. Obviously it has all these cool little things. So this is the hard drive LED, and usually the darker color is the positive lead. So hard drive, not that it really matters because this is just temporary. Reset switch. So reset switch. Resets, the power and reset switches don't have polarity because they're just switches. So you can put them in any direction you want. However, if you want your case to look nice. And here's a power LED, which really doesn't really matter. But you'll see in the front of the case. And that's pretty much it for that. So we got the CPU installed, the memory, everything is done. So all we need is power going to this thing and a monitor, and we're good to go. And that's pretty much it, folks. I install my operating systems on a thumb drive. So I simply just stick a thumb drive into the motherboard and boot off of it and start doing the installation that way. But that's pretty much how you build a computer. In the installation already of the whole motherboard and everything, and so on and so forth. All right, so now here I have the power button and reset switch here. So we power on the device on the machine, and we have power. This is a fan controller. We're not using this, but it powers on anyway, and we're going to start booting. Hopefully the Gigabyte board should see the thumb drive and boot off of it. There we go. We're working away here. Now the installation of Windows 7 on this machine should go really quickly because we are using a thumb drive to do the installation. So this should zip along really quickly. Now this is a G4400 Pentium CPU. On board Intel HD graphics, and we should move right along here. I will fast forward so I don't bore you from the typical stuff of installation of the operating system. However, what I recommend you doing is that since we are using a USB drive for the installation, you might want to take the CD and copy this onto the USB drive, or just install a CD-ROM drive on there. I do have one. This actually is a burner. I will connect it to do the installation of the drivers and stuff for each component. But since there are two computers I need to install, I can simply just image this information from one drive to another after the installation has completed. And the machine came right up, no questions asked. I am using a wireless keyboard and mouse, Joeteck. I happen to like this one a lot. I have two of them, and I love this keyboard because it has the mouse or the glide point built right onto it, so it makes it easy for doing installations or diagnosing anything. And looks like we're coming up, no problem here. Okay, and we're installing Windows 7 on here. The client does not want Windows 10. This board has 4 slots capable of 64 gig maximum memory, DDR4. This is equipped with a G4400 Pentium CPU with onboard graphics, which is Intel graphics. Has 2 PCI Express 16X slots. One is 16X electrically connected. The other is 4X on the far left. The CPU is running at 3.3 gigahertz. Has 6 SATA connections on it. USB 3.0 front header port. 2 USB 2.0 header ports, TPM module, LPT, another COM port, a COM port, and then the audio header. 4 USB 3.0 ports in the back and 2 2.0 ports. This is a feature-rich motherboard for the size. Okay, so now we are booting up the computer, and we have installed a USB thumb drive as the operating system to do the installation. I do all my installations via USB thumb drive. It makes it easier and faster. I mean, granted, I do have a DVD-ROM drive of Windows 7, but a thumb drive, this goes much faster. There's no latency, or lack thereof, like a CD-ROM drive or DVD-ROM drive has. So installing, even though it's probably around the same speed, I think a DVD-ROM drive is like 22 megs a second, but there's latency, and USB 2.0 is 35 megs a second. If you have a good drive, a good thumb drive, you'll be able to achieve the 35 megs a second with zero latency, so the install time is probably almost doubled in terms of the speed of it, plus the speed of the machine itself is also a factor in the performance and how fast it goes. This is a G4400 3.3 gigahertz CPU, solid state 250 gig drive. This is gonna boogie like there's no tomorrow. Alright, so the installation of Windows is complete. Now we do the setup, or the finalizing of the installation of Windows. Now we finalize the installation of Windows now, and then we reboot. Watch how fast this boots up. You guys are going to be blown away. It's ridiculous. Okay, the CD-ROM drive is still in the bay. Watch this. The logo won't even finish. That's great. That's crazy. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to tweak the system here. We want to go to the manage portion of it. We want to go to services and applications. We're going to go to services, and you want to shut off super fetch. I call it stupid fetch. But when you have a solid state drive, you don't need this. So disable this. No reason for it whatsoever. It looks like it's continuing the installation. One device at a time, it looks like. Let's see where we are. A couple more. We've got 4 more devices to install. This resolution is really high. Can't barely read anything from this location. I use a cool program that probably most of you have probably heard. Would be called Night. And you could download your own custom installer to install certain programs right from one single click of one application. So it automatically fetches out and downloads all the necessary files that you need. So I created a file, a programming file for Night that downloads Firefox and bypasses all the bullcrap and just installs the browser. So Firefox, Air, Silverlight, Java version 8, Java 64-bit, Shockwave, and .NET 4.6. And it'll install the latest and greatest of everything, so then I don't have to manually do that independently per file. I like to use Autopatcher for my updating my, instead of using Windows Update, I use Autopatcher. I happen to like this much better than, it's much faster. It takes about, I don't know, 1/10 the time in terms of doing updates for Windows updates. I selected Autopatcher for Windows 7 Surface Pack 1 64-bit, and we click Next, and then it'll search and download every update that is available for Windows 7, every single one of them. From the looks of it, we're doing about 5.23 megabytes a second And we have about 2 minutes and 40 seconds left to finish the updates. This is just downloading them, not installing them. Okay, it appears that we downloaded all of the drivers. Now we're going to install it. All the updates, Windows updates. And if you look, that's it. Okay, we have, let's make sure we have everything selected. So Microsoft Windows 7, 64-bit critical updates, and recommended updates. We have both. We hit next. Watch how fast this goes, guys. This is the way it should be. It says 1 hour and 33 minutes. That's a lie. It's already 28%, 29, 32%. It's going so quick it can't even keep up with the time. This is crazy. I mean, it does help that it is a solid-state drive as well, folks. But this is 38% done. So it has 193 updates. It has, well, 277. Let's see if it actually, yeah, 217 updates currently, and it's at number 68. Okay, as you can see, the auto patcher update has finished. So let's restart. Now this process will take the typical time. Hard drive, mechanical hard drive will go slower. Solid state will go faster. Look at that, it's already done. Pretty impressive, actually. Now Windows is 100% up to date. Nothing else to do except install software like Microsoft Office and whatnot if you have all that stuff. But we are good to go. This machine is finished. Okay, guys. That was pretty much the building of a computer from start to finish and installing the operating system and doing all the necessary updates using the autopatcher.net like Windows Update program. I happen to like using autopatcher.net because it's much faster than the traditional Microsoft Windows updates. There was 277 updates, and that went successfully. The machine is complete, and we're flying along with no problem whatsoever. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. And thank you very much for watching my video. Have a good one. Take care. Gotta love it. So awesome. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. More videos to come. Stay tuned.